Hi everyone, Juli.a.strology here. I'm currently in the process of, I have this stack of books. I'm trying to make another birth chart video where I go through someone's memoir. I'm having trouble finding a timed chart. I was trying to do James A. Caster's, we have classic scrapes over there. And I was gonna do a rectification, but I've only done 2 videos so far. And I'm like, that seems like a lot. So I'm like, maybe I don't think I'm ready for that. I want to get a little more practice with the time charts first. And then I was looking at Sutton Foster's chart, and again, she doesn't have a time, or I was reading her book, Hooked, and then I was like, okay, let me look up, because I read Crying in H Mart a while ago. I was like, let me look up Michelle Zauner's chart, and then I found a chart that it had Cancer rising, and I'm like, that makes sense, because she's talking about her mom and food a lot, and those are things associated with Cancer. So I was looking into that, and then I was trying to do a synastry chart for the day her mom died, and then I was like, wait, is this just the noon chart? And I typed in noon on my, because at first it said unknown time, and then another website said oh, she's a Cancer rising. So I was like, let me just see, and then it was the noon chart, and I'm like, I don't think that's right. So I got a few chapters in, and I was like, okay, everything I have here is useless. And then I was looking at Mindy Kaling's. I have one of her books, but I don't know where the first one is, so I was gonna go see if because I moved recently, so I was gonna see if I could find just that. Are people hanging out without me and other concerns? I have Why Not Me over there, but I'm just having a hard time finding which book I'm gonna do next. But anyway, I wanted to talk about something else. So I was watching a video yesterday. It was how racist are the INTP, or the Myers-Briggs personalities or whatever. And they started off the video. I was like, what is this? I was just curious what they were going to talk about. He was like, well, astrology is just space racism and blah blah blah. And I've heard that a few times, and I just wanted to talk about it for a little bit. I don't really have a script or anything planned out to say, so just stream of consciousness. But yeah, it's not. Astrology is not space racism. So it's a tool just like anything else. You could use a kitchen knife to cut up vegetables for dinner, or to stab somebody. So astrology is similar, which a lot of astrologers in the past have worked for, kings, and they've been tasked with finding a good election to start a war or something. And so sure, it's not great, but I think when people say astrology is just space racism, it's people just, I've definitely heard people do this too, where you just judge people based on their sun signs. I was having lunch with 2 of my friends from high school, and they're like, oh, this girl's a Capricorn, I hate Capricorns, blah blah blah. And so I do definitely there are people who do that. Who just judge people based on just one little aspect of their birth chart. But there's so much more to a birth chart than just your sun sign. You also have the rising, you have your moon sign, you have a sign for all the planets, there's the asteroids, you could look at so many other things. So again, it's a tool. So if you are just a judgmental person, and you're just looking for a reason to hate people, you could be like, oh yeah, she's a Leo. Leos are so annoying. They're so selfish or whatever. But that's not how it has to be used. You can use astrology for all kinds of things. You can, there's different branches of astrology. For anyone who doesn't know, there's natal astrology, which is if you're talking to a girl and she's like, oh, what time are you born, Not that it's only girls, guys can be interested in astrology, but I feel it's just more common to be talking to a girl, and then they ask you for your birth time. There's memes about it and stuff. So anyway, yeah, so that's natal astrology, looking at someone's birth chart, looking at their rising sign and where their sun and moon are, your big 3, which I on the astrology show with Kira Taborn. She talks about your SMR, your sun, moon, and rising, and that always made me I always heard ASMR when she said that, and I feel it kind of makes sense the way that, okay, so if you do ASMR, ascendant, sun, moon, because your ascendant is is a really important point in the chart. It like sets up all the houses, especially if you're using whole sign houses. And then the sun, you can tell based on where their ascendant is and then their sun is. Most of the time you can tell if they're a day or night chart. And then the moon sign, if they're a night chart, the moon's going to be their luminary. And then the R would be ruler of the ascendant, which is like another important, most people don't like include that in the big three, but it's like the planet that rules your ascendant is a really important planet in your chart. So if you're gonna like include some information about your ascendant, I feel like you should throw in where the planet that rules that is. Anyway, so my ASMR would be I'm an Aquarius rising, Virgo sun, Gemini moon, and then my Saturn, which rules Aquarius, is in Pisces. So that's a lot of information there. Anyway, what was I talking about before that? So yeah, that's natal astrology, and then there's horary astrology, which is always a funny word, and like when I first heard it, I was like, what are you saying? It's horary, Horary. I'm taking a horary class with Chris Brennan and Rob Bailey. It's really fun. It's like the astrology of a question. So like when you ask an astrologer a question, it's almost like conceptually like the birth of a question. And so the astrologer can look up like essentially like the birth chart of the question and then answer it. Usually like a yes or no question. Like, will this person and I get in a relationship or get married, or will I be able to sell my house, or something like that. There's also some other, it's usually a yes or no question. But I just learned there's like some other, like you can use it for trials, like will I win this trial, or like court case or whatever, or like my chair's a little squeaky, sorry. There's should I stay or should I go questions, where like if you have an opportunity like another job and you're like, should I stay at my job that I'm at now or should I go to this other job? So that's fun. And then there's electional astrology, which is kind of like preemptively picking out a birth chart for something that you want to do. Like if you want to start writing a book, you can look for a chart that has like a good Mercury placement or good like third house energy or ninth house energy, because third house is writing and ninth house is like publication and stuff. So you can like preemptively find a birth chart that would be good, like I just said, for something you want to do. I'm just repeating myself. And then there's also like mundane astrology, where you can look at like the whole world, like how the planets are affecting everything, like presidential elections and stuff could go under that, and like wars a lot of time, revolutions are talked about in mundane astrology. Just like things like that are happening in the world that aren't necessarily about like one person, you know? So there's like a lot of different uses for astrology. And it's not just space racism. And then there's another thing that people always say, it's like it's a pseudoscience. It's not like, it doesn't, you can't prove it scientifically, or it doesn't like follow the scientific method or whatever. There was a video that I saw, which like, okay, so it was by Cam White, I think, and he was like doing a live stream, and then he took out one little section of it where somebody had to ask like what do you say to astrology skeptics or something, and he took that part and made it just like its own video. So if you want to go look that up, I personally I stopped watching Cam White's videos because he said something that I thought was really fat phobic. He was like, if you're fat, it's your fault. And I was like, what? Like, okay, like first of all, as an astrologer, like the first house represents your physical body. And so like somebody who has like Jupiter and Cancer in the first house is probably going to be like bigger than someone who's like who's Saturn and like Aquarius in the first house. Like I was just like, I can't believe. And he's usually like really good, or I haven't watched his videos in a while, but I felt like he had a really good understanding of like capitalism and like the systems that are like at play like affecting all of our lives. And like there are things like food deserts where people don't have access to like fresh and healthy food. They have like fast food and like liquor stores and stuff, and like that's kind of it around them. And it's just like, if you're fat, it's your fault. I was like, oh, and I didn't bother leaving a comment to like disagree with him, because I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like change his mind. But now I'm like, maybe I should have, just in case someone who's like fat and like was looking through the comments for like support or something, like to see if anyone disagreed. Like maybe I should have just said something, but I was like, I don't think there's any reason to. But anyway, I super disagree with what he said. And also I don't think there's anything wrong with being fat either. Like we have this culture that's like obsessed with being skinny, but like if you look in the past, I think there was an episode of Skins where like the older brother was dating this girl and she was painting on her wall like in her college dorm this like fat woman, and he was like making fun of her, and she was like, well, you know, the beauty standard, like it used to be different. I don't know if I'm like combining something with the episode, but like the beauty standards used to be different, and like if you were like wealthy, that meant you could afford to eat food and you didn't have to like work out in the field, so like you would like being fatter was more like considered beautiful because it was a symbol of wealth, whereas like if you were skinny you couldn't afford to eat and you had to work the field. So it's like now being skinny is a sign of wealth again, because like if you're wealthy you can afford to get like surgeries to like make yourself skinny and like all these like products and like whatever fads people are doing, and like healthy food, like healthy organic food from like Whole Foods or something, versus like going to fast food, which is cheaper, like, you know. Anyway, so it's like, first of all, who cares if like how much you weigh? It doesn't matter. Second of all, it's not like your fault. Like some people have genetics that like some people can be on a vegan diet and exercise every day and still weigh a lot, and some people can eat junk food and like not exercise and not weigh very much. Like it really has nothing to do with any of that stuff. Like it's so annoying. Anyway, and also I feel like that can kind of like, a lot of people with eating disorders feel like their body is like the one thing they can control. And so I feel like if someone's like, yeah, if you're fat, it's your fault, like that could lead to a lot of eating disorders. Anyway, the point is, I don't watch his videos anymore, but that one that I did watch before he said that, he was talking about how astrology is kind of like, one thing about the scientific method is like experiments need to be replicable. And he pulled out like some books like Dorotheus and like Vedius Valens and like William Lilly. I don't have any of those. But he's like, these are like written hundreds of years apart, and they like did the same things, like looking at people's charts, seeing how the planets like show up in their lives, and they find the same things. Like Mars always means the same things, Saturn always means the same things, like Jupiter always expands what it touches, you know. And so it's like, it is kind of replicated, you know. Yeah, so astrology, it's way older than the scientific method anyway, like, so I don't know, like that's like, I don't know if this is making sense. I just thought of it right now, but it's like how sometimes people will like talk about a historical figure. Okay, I'm changing it in my head. I was gonna talk about like racism, but I'm like, there were always people who knew that racism was bad, and we'll like talk about a historical figure and be like, well, they were racist, and then some people will be like, well, it was just the times. But it's like, okay, it was bad then too. Anyway, I changed it to like, if somebody's like in the past, like in history, you're like reading about their life, and they're like, they were born male but they presented like they wore dresses and like married a man and stuff. Some people might call them like transgender, but that's a new word that we like didn't really use until like maybe a few decades ago. And like some people would have called themselves like transsexual, and some people in other cultures might be like two-spirit or something. Like they might have had their own words for it, and they might have just like not called themselves anything. They might have just like lived that way. I don't know. Yeah, and like some people will like label historical figures like queer, even though like that's been used as a slur for a long time. Like we have the right to reclaim it for ourselves, I think, but like I don't think we should label people in the past like that. Anyway, so like you can't really judge astrology by the scientific method, because the scientific method was created after astrology was already been practiced for like thousands of years. So that wasn't grammatically correct. After astrology had already been practiced for thousands of years. So yeah, I'm just like annoyed at this, like, yeah, astrology being made fun of. People think like astrologers are just like scammers. People think, oh, it's just a pseudoscience, it's just space racism. None of that is true. Well, maybe it could be a pseudoscience, but like if you judge it by the scientific method, but you shouldn't. Anyway, astrology is super real. I've read charts for people who like, because I was just getting into it and they're like, oh, I don't really believe in it, but sure, you can look up my birth chart, this is what time I was born. And then I would read their chart and they'd be like, okay, that actually makes a lot of sense, you know? Like there's so many stories of astrologers who like started out as skeptics and wanted to like disprove it, and that's how they became astrologers, because they're like, oh wait, there's actually something here. And I'm just tired of like going on, like, I don't want to call out names, but there's like a scientific, you know, like channel that I watch sometimes, just like because it's interesting and I want to learn more, but then they'll be like, oh, astrologers are just like crackpots or like scammers, like grifters or whatever, and it's just like, I'm here to learn something, not be insulted, but like astrology is real. And I'll usually just like, after the Cam White thing, I've like decided I am just gonna leave a comment and be like, actually astrology is real, just like in case anyone else is like looking in the comments. But like I don't put like a whole essay about how I know that. But yeah, I think like after getting dumped on Valentine's Day, when there was like a Mars Venus conjunction in my 12th house, and the guy I was talking to like had been seeing another girl without telling me, and like told me on Valentine's Day when the conjunction happened, and it's like all of that just like really, I don't think I'll ever doubt it again, you know? Like when I first was learning it, there were times when I was like, how, like there's no way that this could even be real. But like, yeah, there's like sometimes some astrologer good things just happen, which if you've never heard that, it's like something Chris Brennan says a lot about like if something bad happens to you in your life, but the astrology just like makes so much sense that it's like kind of good, that you're like, it's astrologer good, you know? Like getting dumped on Valentine's Day with the Venus Mars conjunction in my 12th house is like definitely astrologer good. And it definitely like solidified like, okay, yeah, I definitely believe in this. But yeah, like astrology is not space racism. I mean, you can use it that way if you want. You can just be like, oh, Scorpios are so annoying, I hate Virgos or whatever. Those are like the two I think that I hear the most, like people don't like. And also like I would go on TikTok when we still had TikTok. I guess we still do have TikTok now, but I deleted it after it was like banned, and then you can't download it again, and like I don't really want to anyway. But before that, that whole thing happened. I would search astrology on TikTok, and there were so many things like that just bothered me. Like people would just rank the signs, like these signs are the best, these signs are the worst, and it was like, who is this helping? Like, I don't know. Maybe they were just doing it to like get views, because you know some people, whoever had the sign that was ranked the worst would be like, hey, what the heck? And then whoever had the sign that was ranked best would be like, yeah, I knew it, you know, like in the comments. So it's like a way to get views, I guess. But like, and maybe they're not saying like people with these signs are the best or worst, but like that's the vibe I got from it. Maybe they're just ranking like the energy of the signs themselves, like in terms of like, there was always like a specific thing, like the best signs to date or whatever, and it's like, okay. I just found that stuff annoying, but what, I guess a lot of people liked it because they had a lot of views and stuff. So anyway, yeah, I'm kind of like just blabbering now. So thanks for watching. Okay, bye.